Hello and welcome to Post Match Live on YouTube. We're here at the racecourse up on the radio bench after Wrexham's pre-season friendly, a 3-1 defeat to Championship Stoke City. Interesting game. We split into two clear sections, I think. One was against Stoke starting 11. That one Wrexham drew 1-1. Tyrese Campbell gave Stoke the lead rather. And then Bobby Grant equalised the header into an open goal after JJ Hooper had closed down Adam Federici. Miscommunication at the back. Then Stoke brought the big guns on. Benik Afobe, Sam Vokes, Joe Allen, Tommy Smith, James McLean. Just looking at this team sheet, all sorts of quality players came on. They made the big difference. Sam Vokes scored the 2 goals. But James, a good pre-season workout for Wrexham today.
Yeah, definitely a good pre-season work. I'm just trying to watch this screen to see if we're actually live, and I think we're quite a way behind, so it's a little bit confusing. So hopefully you can see or hear us well. Unfortunately, you probably see us, but hopefully we'll talk some sense. But yeah, it was a good workout today. I thought it's interesting that Brian only used the one substitution late McIntosh, everyone getting 90 minutes. I suppose as we progress through pre-season with only 2 games left, it's important that we see the 90 minutes. I would expect on Saturday that the ones who missed out we'll get those 90 minutes, and then we'll see perhaps that final selection going into the Crew game ahead of the Barrow game of where we think we are. Possible new signings mentioned, some trialists still with the club. But I think generally overall it was a good workout. The first 10 minutes Stoke looked, as you'd expect, a different level above. Obviously the control of the players, they're all good footballers, aren't they? They're consistent at that level, and Wrexham seem to not quite get their footing into the game. The 3 centre backs that we've been trialling in this new system, the Plan B as it's called, like to spread wide, and I think that gave Stoke too much time, too much impetus, and Gregory, Woods, and Campbell found a lot of space between the lines. We then closed that gap, and we looked for the rest of the half. We looked a solid team, got the equaliser with a good run of play, a howler of a defensive mix-up between the goalkeeper and the his right back and the right sided centre half. But Wrexham put the pressure on. They applied a lot of pressing. They were disciplined in the way they set up, the way they got men behind the ball, the way they pressed in the attacking third as a pack. And I think that worked, and certainly in the second half we started that way, and then obviously, as you mentioned, the big guns came on. It was interesting that they glued very quickly and made Wrexham look like the team that had made all the changes, and again we went back to that. Wrexham looked a little bit disjointed for 10 minutes or so, and that's when the goal came. And then Wrexham sort of clawed their way back into it under pressure, but a couple of good breaks, and then Stoke eventually just that Afobe and Vokes and Nick Powell, really some great one-touch football. Joe Allen as well involved in that, and just the difference with a bit of pace and power and precision, I think, is that you don't necessarily see it obviously at National League level, and that was the difference between the two teams. But 3-1 it's a pre-season friendly. Let's not get overexcited about it, but we have lost 6-0 a couple of years ago to Stoke, and it was nice to look like an attacking team that's going to score goals again.
Yeah, definitely. There was a lot of good movement up there, wasn't there, when Wrexham had that brief spell on top. And we're not going to come up against the quality that Afobe offered today, that Sam Vokes offered, and not only did they offer quality, but they offered it against a tiring defence. We are still in pre-season. I think that told today that fitness levels aren't quite there. It wasn't quite a 90-minute performance, was it, from Wrexham? But we saw even then, even in the second half, Mark Harris got in some good positions on the left-hand side. I think you said live on air that maybe a little bit of naivety took his crosses a bit early, whereas you'd hope as the season wears on, player Wales under 21 international end of the day, player of his quality will start to wait, like JJ Hooper did for the goal that Bobby Grant scored, like JJ Hooper did for a cross he put in for Grant earlier on, where he was on his own when he received possession, held the ball up really well, created a good chance down the right hand side, crossed in for Grant. Grant just at full stretch put it over on that occasion. Then he scored the goal, and you think if it's Hooper that's running down that channel, maybe he'd have waited for more options in the middle, and then there's some dangerous positions we got into. So the attacking movement is definitely the positive takeaway, I think, and the fact we can show it against a championship team is a big positive going into the new season.
Yeah, all of that, the 3 across the front roles, Bobby Grant, Harris and JJ Hooper, yeah, JG Hooper, I suppose, possibly the standout, although Bobby Grant, man of the match from the sponsors and scored the goal. And he again looked lively and positive and full of his first touches. You can tell that he's played at the level he's played at. Harris, I like Harris. I think there's definitely something there. Perhaps up against a stronger opposition than he's been against pre-season. And yeah, just maybe a little bit of that, the youth and playing against senior players. Didn't quite get his head up a couple of times, but that's going to come. That's going to be developed. What I do like about him is direct. He's got pace. He does like to run with the ball, and he causes defences issue. He turns the defenders, and I think we've got a number of players this year that are able to do that. Redmond, he looked good against Portsmouth East and Kevin Druids. Again, it's difficult to tell. I would have liked to see him today. Obviously, just being precautious with a slight injury, and I think we've got some keys to unlock a lot of defences this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as well, further back from then, Luke Summerfield, we know how well he can control games. It's good to see him getting back up to full fitness. Akil Wright today, he put himself about a bit. Defensively, I think got nutmegged at least twice today. It was a difficult day defensively for him, but these are two players who could impose themselves on a National League midfield. And when you have the likes of Luke Young to bring into that, and as you said, Devontae Redmond who can sit in front of them, there's options in all attacking areas. We can turn what was a negative midfield in some ways, something that we got a lot of criticism for, into a more positive one that's looking for the forward balls, which we just haven't had too much of in previous seasons.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult to call it a negative, but it's difficult to call it positive, isn't it? Because they were a very solid, workmanlike midfield last year. Luke Young, obviously, in that equation as well, is a great asset. Those three can revolve around those roles, and it's important to have a squad that's capable of doing that. I liked Akil Wright's energy. Summerfield had a bit of class on the ball as well that we needed. Just that experience to put his foot on it and take a bit of pressure off at times. And I think obviously against National League opposition that will stand out a bit more. What I do like, without getting too detailed in the formation and stuff like that, is the way that it transitions and fluidity of it means even though we're playing with a two in midfield, which we played for two, I think one game last year, and was it Barrow actually that we got torn apart in that? It's not a two in midfield. It's almost like at times it can be a 6, then it can be a 3, then it can be a 2, then it can be a 4. There's lots of permutations in that, and I'm enjoying watching this develop, and it could be the Wrexham style of play to go forward.
Absolutely. I think we've benefited really. Obviously, we were out in Portugal. We saw them working on it on the training pitch, and then they came into that friendly against Portsmouth East, and it just seemed to click straight away, didn't it? What we'd seen on the training pitch, where they were working on getting the ball wide quickly, spreading the shape up. It's one thing working on it in training, to be able to see it work in a match like that. And I hope anybody that got to the open training session also benefited from seeing just how much work had gone into it and how much positional discipline there is. It's difficult in pre-season if you're only looking at results and trying to ask who's played well, who played this, who did that. People are at different stages of development. We already know that Jake Lawson only had a couple of games back, for example. Jason Oswald didn't play today. He'll probably get more time at the weekend. It's all about being able to do the basics at this stage of pre-season, and certainly in terms of what we saw on the training pitch, that's been reflected out there on the pitch, and it shows that the players are taking in what Carl Darlington and Brian Hughes are telling them as well, trying to encourage this new system. We know in the past that maybe there hasn't quite been that same relationship between certain managerial teams and the players out in the middle, but this time they seem to be really clicking. I think that's the one thing that's a big positive for me. It's remains to be seen how it'll work in the National League. We might be 3 or 4 games in saying 3-4-3, what a terrible idea that was, but it's positive that the manager's got an idea, a clear system that he wants to play with, and the players are absolutely buying into it so far.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's interesting how they are buying to the formation, and they're very much adapted. We've seen a number of players in different roles, different positions, and move across the friendlies, and all. It's evident very much that they're drilled into that positional play. I mean, we can't get excited with pre-season. We could go and smash teams 10-0 and every week and win every game, and then walk in season and lose. I like to see the formation. I like to see the way the patterns of play we're playing. I like to see the new signings, and you can make a bit of a judgment. Oh, he looks like he's got pace. He's got good height, good strength, got a good first touch, got a poor first touch, or all that. And you make your judgments when you see players, but you've got to remember it is pre-season, and it's mainly about fitness. But we're over that fitness stage. We're getting to the point where we need to start to see patterns of play, how we attack, where we set up for set pieces, defensively, and attacking. How we deal with situations, and I like the way that Brian Hughes and his team have gone around this pre-season. That the opposition they've elected to play. We've played a team from Welsh Premier League. We've played a team from the league below us in Telford. We've played a great tie, a fairly marquee tie. The club should be proud of getting a club that just signed Jackson Martinez and sold a player for 40+ million that same day as we're playing him is, it's a big ask. Stoke come into here, a good solid Championship side, redeveloping in their style of play, and they've got some good attacking. They've still got a bit of power and pace, but they've got some good footballing guys on there and good working players. So we haven't been humiliated by some of the big teams, and vice versa. Telford, we at times did really well, but at times we were put under pressure against players that we're likely to face week in, week out. Street at the back for them, for instance, is a big, solid defender. That's what you're going to face in a lot of the teams. Same as their midfielders, they're in your face, quick balls over top. So I like it. It's a nice balanced pre-season in terms of who the opposition will play. Again, we go into Curzon and then Crewe. There's a similar sort of one lower, one higher, and you get a good balance. So you can't read too much into results. You can't read too much into performances necessarily. We've all seen the odd player that's come through as a trialist and you thought he's a world beater, and then never heard of again, or ends up signing someone a lot lower. So it's difficult to judge. Obviously, you don't want to get excited too much about it, but there's lots of positives as well. I like the way, like you said, in Portugal, the way the team gelled together, the squad gelled together, and the way that they seem to be buying into the management team's style of play. I'd be interested to see if there's a couple of signings coming in. I think if this three, Doug Tharm obviously to come back in as centre half, but with Manny being out till potentially Christmas as reported, that is there another centre half to come in? Is that right back position still open? It's been much touted about that we've had trialists there and been linked with various players. So there's still possibly some movement in and out. I think the squad looks solid. It looks like it's a progression of where we were last season and more attacking.
Yeah, interesting to see some comments coming through. Yes, lad, 123 says he was there. First half we were okay. Second half we switched off. I wouldn't say we switched off, but I think the quality showed, and the fitness levels dropped from Wrexham's behalf and Stoke. The quality they brought onto the pitch, we have to hold our hands up and say they were simply too good for us. Cal Riley says he was there. Interested to see what he thought of the game. Danny Duckett is listening from Plymouth. He says up north in 2 weeks. Does you ask Yozza, do I need my boots? If you can play right back or centre half, then
you might.
You never know. You've got a local game coming up this season as well with Torquay. First trip down to Devon for a while. Probably going to be the only one on there on a in the southwest this season.
I suppose the only one that's going to be happy there is Luke Young. He'll have some family he can stay overnight with, I suppose, sort of having made that trip up last season. But yeah, I think I think Wrexham fans will have been pleased with it. Obviously, a lot of Wrexham fans follow in great numbers. We see all that in Portugal. We've seen that at Kevin Druids. We've seen it at Telford, and this is the first chance. Home team. Stoke brought a good 600-700, I'm guessing, but it was 2,000. Almost 2,200 in the ground, so a good turnout for a pre-season friendly on a Wednesday evening for Wrexham fans. A lot of people, a first opportunity to see some of these players in the flesh, see them against a competitive up to a point against a higher opposition, and they did in the second half. Again, I don't think we switched off, but we certainly tired. It's tough one.
Yeah, definitely. We're still new to our new live streaming system. If you are getting any issues, we apologise. We're doing our best to bring you our reaction, having been live on the Wrexham AFC Mixlr channel. That's where we'll be again on Saturday for the game at Curzon Ashton. If you can still hear us. James, what are you expected from that? It's a different type of opposition again, like you said, maybe a chance to go back to a different system again.
Yeah, possibly. I would expect to see a completely different team than we've seen today. There's those 7 or 8, 9 players that didn't feature today that I would start. I'd expect to see for 90 minutes. Be interesting to play at the back though. There's not many options at centre half there. Doug, obviously jumping at the bit, coming back from injuries. Been having to do a lot of running, but now training back with the first team, and hopefully we can see some of him. I suppose Jake Lawler hasn't played a great deal of pre-season, so perhaps we'll see him partner Doug at the back. Sean has featured quite a lot. Midfield, I expect to see some changes in there. Mark Carrington's obviously played at centre half in this 3 system. And then we've got some of the youngsters. Matty Sargent has impressed me. Jack Thorne's impressed me. I think Matt Sargent's definitely one that I hope could make that breakthrough into the first team. Nice to see the youth come through and given a chance, and adding some meaning to the first team. I think Brian Hughes obviously famously has come through the youth ranks, and I think he'll be keen to do that. Brian Flynn obviously back on his shoulder here today, and a great advisory in his ear, but he'll be there and looking at the benefits of the youth setup, and we can but dream. It is pre-season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've got the right people in behind the scenes to give Matty Sargent a chance in the team. If he gets that, he's impressed me as well, as has Jack Thorne. To be fair, they're the 2 players that signed the pro contracts, and I guess a friendly at Curzon Ashton's the exact sort of occasion to make a name for yourself.
Yeah, as a youngster, Jack Thorne played the full 90 minutes against Telford as the left winger. Matty Sargent obviously played the full 90 minutes as the sort of holding pivot midfielder, and both looked on par with some really experienced, powerful midfielders. So again, it's another chance to test that out for them, and another chance to show what they can do.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for joining us, those that did. We've been Colin Henrys and James Harrison live on YouTube. Our thanks as well to Lucy Scott, who you might have heard on Mixlr. Unfortunately, had to rush off. The perils of being volunteers when work come calling. Thank you very much. We'll be live again on the Wrexham AFC Mixlr channel on Saturday for Curzon Ashton as Wrexham's pre-season friendlies continue. Thank you very much for joining us, and speak to you then.